Hey, so I wanted to look at Netflix. Last time we looked at this company was on July 22nd. So it's only been, maybe 2 weeks. Uh, but last time we looked, it was trading at 427. It's now at 428. S- some news has happened in that time, not too much. This was right after earnings. So I guess let's just kind of do a quick recap of earnings. We'll look at some other news, and then we'll just look into the technical analysis, see if now's a good time to buy or what would be the optimal time to buy. So let's just take a quick look again, they beat their earnings per share. They did miss revenue just by 100 million, which to them, where they made close to 8.2 billion, not that much. They gave us guidance for revenue of 8.5 billion and earnings per share of $3.52. So they're projecting it to continue to go up. We can look at again just what we're forecasting. It's kind of uh, matches identical down here at the bottom. Earnings per share projecting 352. It looks like analysts were saying 323. They raised it to 350 to match. Uh, Revenue guidance was for 8.52, and analysts are now averaging at about 8.53. And then just to look at the full year, right now we'll just round up to $12. That's what we're hoping to see in earnings. And so far we're at about 5, 6, 7, 8, close to $9 if they can hit this 350 like they're projecting. But right now it seems like they are on pace, so all seems to be okay here. And now pivoting into some news, again, not much, but some of the headlines that came across were Netflix wants to hire an AI product manager with a salary of $900,000 per year, and this is kind of enraging the SAG-AFTRA group, which is all about just equal pay, I guess, or just getting a fair wage. And the big surprise is that salary, that $900,000 salary per year, compared to the people that are kind of fighting this fight right now, that salary makes up 87% of those members who earn less than 26,000. So not the whole community, but the people that are low on, I guess, the totem pole of this with the 26,000 or less, it makes up like 87% of those types of people, including background actors who often take home only about $200 a day. And I think that's kind of who this AI product is aiming to target. If they can kind of AI integrate background actors, then it, potentially it could save a lot of money. Clearly, they think that job to kind of add that type of effect, I suppose, would be worth that type of salary. We will have to see how that kind of equates long term in terms of expenses. But clearly, that's what they're thinking, that this is a good deal. But that just kind of shows the different stories here. So that was a big kind of complaint from that group to see that job posting. And this is the only other article before we transition into the technical analysis is Netflix is apparently seeking to tweak this deal that they made with Microsoft over lower ad prices. Apparently tweaking its deal, which initially offered a revenue guarantee to Microsoft, and Netflix is already in preliminary discussions to sell ads from other companies. Uh, Apparently, this tweak down here at the bottom, it lists that it's mainly due to slowing growth of the ad tier base. Uh, that's kind of surprising. I guess I thought it would shoot off faster, and I guess it has, but it's already slowing down. So that's not, we definitely didn't want to see that, but it could just be uh, these new users are just skipping that ad tier. So Netflix might have targeted X amount of new users, and instead of just going from ad tier to then paying for no ads, they're just going straight for the no ads tier. That's potentially what's happening. But overall, it didn't go into the figures of what like the revenue guarantee was, but I have to imagine again they just thought their ad tier offering was going to grow at, who knows, just like some sort of percentage quarter over quarter. They're seeing it's not growing as fast as they want, so they're trying to just renegotiate, say, hey, that's a little too much. We'll of course see how that plays out, but to go to the ad users, the lower the prices for advertisers between $39 and $45 for roughly 1,000 views in recent deals, down from a range of 45 to 55. So they're also pulling down uh, the cost of advertising. I think that's just to get in other companies outside of Microsoft. Uh, so instead of advertising for this company or on this platform, people will want to go to Netflix to get a lower cost per thousand views. We'll of course follow that to see how it plays out. That's fairly recent, uh, and with such large companies, again, yeah, we'll see how that plays out in the long term. But let's pivot into the technicals here. So, um, oh, there we go. So again, last time we looked, it was trading at 427. That was just a couple weeks ago. So if we zoom in, that was right around here-ish, this little green bar. And each one of these bars is representing a week. So yeah, it was roughly flat. It definitely went up a couple bucks, but then pulled right back to roughly where we started just a couple weeks ago. We noticed this short-term uptrend since May. So if we zoom out, that is what the purple lines are. That's indicating this uptrend that we're in. I think I actually expanded it a little bit since the last video. I think it was a little more narrow, but I think I expanded it. It shouldn't be that big of a difference, but just wanted to mention that in advance. Uh, Overall, we've kept this yellow line in here to see just how we thought it would kind of react based on the news of they're not going to allow password sharing, plus the ad-based tier offering. Uh, so we kind of made a projection that we thought overall would go up, and it has. I think it just maybe hit differently because it seems like it's almost flipped because here we have this big surge that happened kind of in the front half, and now it's kind of chopping sideways, but still gradually picking up. So if we could have just flipped that, that seems to be what actually transpired based on those couple developments back then when we found out in like May, June area. So to see this one kind of trade sideways, I think that also has to do with their earnings. They didn't pop like I thought they would, and maybe it just is due to that password crackdown in America not having a full quarter under its belt. So maybe next quarter we'll see that growth. Again, based on guidance, they do expect it to go up a fair amount, not half a billion, but like 300 to 400 million dollars would be, that's a sizable impact. So we'll see, but where it stands right now, we were in this range before. So if we scale back to 2020 when it was still kind of on this ride up, there was a solid about 2-ish months where it chopped sideways between 416 and 450. That's where it is today. And based on how large this uptrend is and how the uptrend is angled, it could chop between this area for the next all the way out till October, which is roughly when earnings come out. And unless something major really comes about in the news or we get an update on earnings being, or I'm sorry, guidance, like Q3 guidance being pulled down or up, uh, this one really, I have a high potential to just trade sideways for the next month, possibly 2 months until next earnings, and we get a new evaluation of this one. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. Just staying between this roughly $40 range. Uh, Again, we've also seen with other companies where it's traded kind of flat for maybe a month, 2 months in this case, and then all of a sudden it pops. I think the difference is, Netflix had a scenario like that back in April where it traded sideways roughly for a month and then it popped. I think the difference between then and now, though, is that it was at the bottom of the range and here it is at the top, and now it's kind of trading sideways, getting into the middle of the range. If we could just, I can add in this isn't like the middle, but it's kind of close. Where if we just add it in a second line here, I'm trying to grab it, it kind of has some dips at that level, at least back in December, January of 22, it kind of pulled back to that range and then accelerated. Yes, it did dip below, which is why we had that big purple range. So maybe that would be like the ideal if it pulls back to say about 415, or to just the black line. I mean, right now, that black line for this week, since we're midweek, would be like 404. So between like 404 and maybe if we circle back on this in like say 2 weeks, that'd be about 412. So right in that range seems reasonable. 416 also seems reasonable. Just all depends on how much you want to reach for this one. I do see that it could just kind of trade sideways for a while. Again, without any major news, that's very reasonable. But otherwise, that short-term uptrend, that is still in play. I can add in buy dips for this. But I guess let's just start updating the tracker here, and we can move on. So currently 428, so relatively flat. We had buy points all the way down to 330. We definitely saw some support there going back in the past. I think we're kind of past that at this point. We're not too far out of the way, but I think it's safe to remove that, at least for now. So I'm just going to take that one out. We also had 372. At the time, 372 was... What is 372? I think 372 is roughly when I thought I'd circle back to this, because that seems to be the bottom of the uptrend. But again, fast forwarding a little bit, just a couple weeks, or it must have been the next week, something like that. Either case, yeah, that seems to be the low end of the uptrend. And then we also had 416. 416, again, we kind of already explained that. That seemed to be a slight consolidation period between 416 and 450. 416 would be, of course, another support line. So I do kind of like that figure. 372, that will just get updated to about let's see. Well, the bottom of the range would be, this week it'd be 372. Oh, so that's where it is. So we thought we'd circle back on this week, I take it, so 372. If we fast forward just say about 2-3 weeks, I'd like to look at this again. So about 381. So I'm going to update the 372 to 381. But I am going to update the buy point on this. Originally, I had it at the bottom of that uptrend. I think a more reasonable option would be if it pulls back to 416. That would be my interest point. It looks like we marked something at 425. Um, I guess that seemed reasonable. Um, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed. I think we can pull this back a little bit. Um, let's just pull it back to, we'll say 420. And then I want to remove this if I can. Yeah. Okay, so I have 416, but, that's an ideal world. If it pulled back to like 420, 425, I guess, yeah, that's reasonable. It's not too much of a stretch. In terms of resistance, same kind of story here. 437. Why do I have that marked? Not sure. Something must have changed. 437. Maybe I just didn't update that. I have to imagine that's the uptrend. So maybe I just didn't save it. But based on the uptrend right now, it'd be about 457. I'll zoom in a little bit here. So 457 would be the top. If we check back in about 2-3 weeks, like I'm hoping, that would be 465. So I'm going to update the 437 to 65. We also have 450. Again, I think it might trade in that range. So we had 450. We're going to keep that in. That's going to be my point of interest, at least temporarily. Let me unbold 465. And then we also had 570. We had 570 also in here. Zooming back out a little bit. Yeah, 570. That goes back into 2020, 2021, where it really just consolidated between a $100 range, 470 and 570. I think that if we can kind of generate more steam behind this one and get into like say 480, 490, I could easily see this one just going off to 570, just like this is kind of projecting. We probably will remove that at some point, this yellow bar, but for now we're just going to keep it in till about probably the end of the month, and then we'll see how it kind of shaped out. And then this box here, that's kind of where I'm currently projecting it to be at quarter end, which would be end of September. So earnings wouldn't be released at that point, but very close. We should kind of have an idea of what to expect. I guess the last thing I'll do now is just, I guess I'd call this fair value. It's not overpriced, so it's definitely an improvement. It's not perfect yet, because again, ideally I'd like it at 416. 420 would be okay. But yeah, that pretty much covers it. So just a quick recap on Netflix. Currently it's at 428. Buy points for me would be 381, which would be the bottom of the uptrend. 416 seems to find some support there. I'd be willing to reach a little bit for it, but 416 is the ideal number. That's the number I'm targeting right now. Resistance at 450. That's the narrow consolidation window we're currently in. It was in this phase before for about a month, so no guarantee it's going to last that long. But with earnings out of the way and without seeing any type of big news, whether good or bad, we could just hang out in that range for another month or two, and it would be reasonable. It would still keep that uptrend. So not sure how long we'll stay in that range, but we are in that range, so I'm going to play it like that. We also had resistance at 465, which would be the very top of the uptrend range. I just want to confirm that. 465, and projecting out about 2 weeks. And also 570, that's a strong resistance point if we get there. Probably, I don't expect to get there anytime soon. Not by the end of this year, but within the next year, I could see it. Maybe not the end of this year, but within this year. Interesting. Okay. So, yeah, that pretty much wraps it up. The note, again, we're still in that short-term uptrend, which started in May of last year. So it's been over a year at this point. Uh, we can make this long-term. And then buy the dips. We're currently kind of halfway through, just kind of trading sideways. So it's not a big dip, but it's getting close to a buy point that I would be interested in. If it pulled back into like the high 300, that'd be great. I would definitely be looking to pick up more shares. But 416 seems reasonable. Uh, so that pretty much wraps us up. If you have any questions or want to add something to the comments, I'd be happy to read that. Otherwise, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.